Some 49ers receiver news to begin the week. Gabe Davis, the former Buffalo Bill and Jacksonville Jaguar, will be visiting the 49ers facility today. They appear to be interested in signing him as a free agent. Coach Yak, credit to him. He reported Gabe Davis heading to the Bay Area yesterday, and I can confirm this on Monday morning to begin this week. Davis, a few productive years in Buffalo. He's still only 26 years old, and we know that the 49ers are interested in bolstering the receiver room. In fact, over the course of the past couple months, that's been one of my main points, is that the 49ers may not be done in that wide receiver room, probably aren't done in that receiver room. Remember that Amari Cooper is still a free agent, and that's somebody that I wouldn't rule out signing with the 49ers either. Gabe Davis just a few days ago was released by Jacksonville with a failed physical designation. Last year, that was his only season with the Jaguars. He tore his meniscus, later underwent surgery. Apparently, he's not fully healthy yet. So any signing would probably be contingent on a team being comfortable with his health situation moving forward. And that's why an in-person visit would be necessary. But if you look at the 49ers receiving depth chart, it's really interesting because they obviously have names there and veteran names there like Brandon Ayuk, DeMarcus Robinson, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, now a veteran entering his second year. But Brandon Ayuk and DeMarcus Robinson, their availability for the start of the 2025 season is in question. Ayuk is coming off of the ACL and MCL tears. DeMarcus Robinson was arrested last December while he was still with the Rams. DUI arrest, and that means that he might be suspended by the league to start this season. So very quickly, the name of 6 that are projected to make the 53-man roster is whittled down potentially to 4 to begin the season. Jennings, Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and Jordan Watkins, who is San Francisco's one of their draft picks, comes from Ole Miss, speedster, 4.37 guy, 5'11 receiver. So not a very big frame, but a fast one for the 49ers. You have to expect there's going to be some developmental time for Jordan Watkins. So you're looking at a room that might need up to 2 more bodies to function at the start of the season. So, of course, you can look at the potential additions through the rest of the depth. And the 49ers have Tariq Owens, who was on the practice squad last year. That is Terrell Owens' son, who developed, I think, well. They're happy with his progress. He might get a shot early in the season. I made an entire video on Sunday about Isaiah Nair, who might be the best athlete in this 2025 rookie class. San Francisco drafted him, or didn't draft him. They added him as an undrafted free agent out of Nebraska, 6'4", 218 pounds. Those two guys, that there certainly seems to be a little bit of an opening, but both of those are unproven players, and you would figure that the 49ers, with Brock Purdy, with an offense that has experience elsewhere, with a team that is going to have to lead the way with its offense because the defense is going to have so many young guys, you would figure that the 49ers would be very interested in a veteran at the receiver position. And that's where somebody like Gabe Davis could come in for the 49ers. Central Florida product. They call him Big Game Gabe because he always seemed to step up whenever Buffalo had a massive game, including one of those playoff games against the Chiefs where he had over 200 receiving yards and a touchdown very, very late. I think that was one of the many heartbreakers that the Buffalo Bills have gone through, though, because Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City went back the other way, and I think that wasn't that the 12 or the 9-second or the 12-second game, whichever one it was, divisional round 2021. Unfortunately, the Gabe Davis touchdown at the very end was not as remembered as it normally would be, just because of what happened right after that. But he has delivered. He's a bigger body wide receiver, 6'2", 216 pounds. The 40 time isn't great. It's in the 4.5s, but the 10-yard split is 1.55, 10-yard split for a guy at 216 pounds. That shows you how Gabe Davis can get open. He gets open with explosion. Because of that, he's been able to be a good deep threat. I think better on the outside than on the inside. The agility for Gabe Davis was never something I think was tremendously above average or even above average. It was more about the straight line explosion and the size that he can bring to the table. It's in the old relative athletic scores have the 40-yard dash mile per hour. I don't see this on the new relative athletic scores. I'm sure they have the data. It's just not written on the little chart. But Gabe Davis hit 21.7 miles per hour on his 40 back when he ran it at the 2020 NFL Scouting Combine. So keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on Amari Cooper. Keep an eye on other potential 49ers veteran receiver additions. I know this one is John Feliciano endorsed. Feliciano actually played for the Bills with Gabe Davis, and then he played for the 49ers. And a couple of weeks ago, John Feliciano tweeted Gabe Davis would be a perfect fit in San Francisco. And, as you can see, the 49ers definitely need that receiver addition from a veteran standpoint when you look at the potential unavailability of Brandon Ayuk and Demarcus Robinson at the start of the season. But I think John was talking more from a stylistic standpoint, and based on what the 49ers have been adding throughout the course of this offseason, you could see what they're aiming for. I think last year they ranked number 32, dead last in average separation. And with pure speed and explosion. And also, if you sprinkle in a little bit of size, I think they can add some comparative advantages that they've generally lacked in the wide receiver room. So look at the draftee, Jordan Watkins out of Ole Miss, 4.37 speed. Look at the undrafted free agent edition in Isaiah Nair. It's a guy who brings you 4.40 speed, and he also brings you that speed with size at 6'4", 220. Look at somebody like Gabe Davis, still 26 years old, real explosion with that 1.55 10-yard split coming off the line, combined with the 6'2 size. Has been a guy who can run a deep ball and somebody who can high point a football down the sideline. All of a sudden, I think you've got some more dynamic threats whom the 49ers have either added or are interested in adding, and that can help the team with its separation. The biggest help the 49ers do anticipate getting in this 2025 season is the return of Christian McCaffrey. I know he doesn't play receiver. I know that you're not going to deploy him on go routes, but coming out of the backfield, he draws attention. And if he draws attention there, receivers on the outside will typically be more open. Of course, the return of Brandon Ayuk, if and when it does come during this 2025 season, will also help the 49ers with their separation game, because he was the best separator at that wide receiver position over the course of the 2023 season when he put up all those huge numbers. So it really is a totality effect, right? It's not just one receiver. Okay, everything is okay. It's not just one guy coming out of the backfield, Christian McCaffrey, everything's okay. It's a complex situation where the run game is also really important. They ranked number 20 in first down run efficiency last year. A lot of that also because Christian McCaffrey was not available for most of the 2024 season. So the 49ers have to have several things fall in place, but I think that if we're going to focus on the receiving room specifically, we circle back to that wideout position, and we circle back to the fact that there are some potential depth concerns for the 49ers and top-line concerns veteran-wise, especially early in this season, which is why you would be interested in somebody like Gabe Davis or and Amari Cooper. San Francisco's receiving room last year went through so many bodies too. So, a lot of people say, well, what if Demarcus Robinson and Brandon Ayuk come back and then you still have an Amari Cooper or Gabe Davis on the team? How do you fit everybody? Hey, how do you fit Jacob Cowing on the same team as Jordan Watkins, since it appears those skill sets are very similar? Shorter receivers, excellent burst off the line of scrimmage. And to that, I have to say, this is not Madden with injuries turned off. This is real NFL football where guys get hurt. And I still remember the Week 7 disaster against Kansas City last year, where basically the 49ers' only top-line target wasn't technically a wideout. It was George Kittle, but everybody else was hurt. That's the game that Brandon Ayuk suffered the torn ACL and the torn MCL. That was the game where or the game after Juwan Jennings hurt his hip. Christian McCaffrey obviously wasn't back yet for the 49ers. It was the game where Deebo Samuel played a couple snaps, but was dealing with the pneumonia, which would be diagnosed after the game, ended up going to the hospital later that night. So Ricky Pearsall was thrust into his first career action after having gotten shot, 50 days prior in the chest. So, I mean, he wasn't up to speed yet. Jacob Cowing had his most productive game just out of necessity as a rookie. But the 49ers were super thin during a game against one of their best opponents, the Kansas City Chiefs. And that thinness at the wide receiver position ended up doing them in. They were extremely limited offensively over the course of the game. So it just goes to show you, when you go through a marathon of an NFL season, you absolutely need as much depth as you could possibly cram onto the roster at the receiver spot. And the 49ers are in a unique position where guys like Isaiah Nair and Tariq Owens might be able to ride on the practice squad, probably will be able to ride on the practice squad. Somebody like Demarcus Robinson is on a suspended list, and Brandon Ayuk is still on a IR list or on a physically unable to perform list. I think that's the most likely scenario for somebody like Brandon Ayuk. He's not going to be taking up a 53-man roster spot, and you could definitely fit another veteran or even two veterans early in the season on that roster. Then when guys are ready to come back, like say Brandon Ayuk's ready to come back week 5 and Demarcus Robinson's ready to come back week 4, well, then you reevaluate at that time. And you really might have a situation where somebody else gets hurt and then the roster spots fill out naturally. The bottom line is you can never think in terms of, oh, we have enough players, no need to sign anybody else, especially if you're in a situation like the 49ers are in right now and you could see the holes coming in from a mile away. That all being said, I mean, we're talking about an Ayuk injury and his potential return to play. We're talking about potential unavailability or injury compromised situations. Gabe Davis was just released with a failed physical designation a couple days ago, kind of like Drake Jackson was waived with a failed physical designation a couple days ago. I'm sure that Gabe Davis's situation is not as troublesome as Drake Jackson's. Jackson's was a torn patellar tendon. This is a torn meniscus, which is typically an injury from which NFL players rather quickly recover. It often does require surgery. But the 49ers do need to make sure that everything is headed in the right direction. So in case something takes a little bit longer here, you probably know why. Or in case something doesn't happen at all here, you probably know why. And also remember that Amari Cooper is available. Maybe some other veteran options too. We'll see what tier of veteran the 49ers go for, because if you talk about price, Davis, can you grab him at $5 million this year? Will it cost $10 million this year? Somebody like Amari Cooper probably going for over $10 million. The 49ers have the short-term cap space, but they're always working around the long-term reality of the contract for Brock Purdy and just surfing the salary cap wave as it rises. In general, this team has, I think, decided to invest heavily from a financial sense, cap sense on offense, and they're renovating the defense around the foundational pillars of Bosa, Fred Warner, and Deommodore Lenoir, but the defense is getting a whole lot cheaper. If we talk about the Rams formula, they had the lowest cash spend on defense last year with all those young guys, but they poured some money into the offense, which had to be the locomotive that pulled the train. And I would say that the 49ers probably, I wouldn't say they're directly mirroring the Rams' financial approach, since the Rams had Aaron Donald retiring, so he was coming off the books. The 49ers obviously don't have that with Nick Bosa. They also have Fred Warner, and they also have Deommodore Lenoir. But I think that there won't be as much hesitance to spend on the offensive side of the ball, where they definitely are going for continuity, experience, and then you just have to wonder what the budget for somebody like Gabe Davis would be. Big week this week. NFL schedule release week is upon us. So the NFL, they've already started to trickle out some of the games. We know that the Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles will be playing in week 1. There is also a rumor that the Chiefs and the Chargers will be playing in week 1. So those are both divisional matchups, and that's led to speculation that week 1 will be filled with divisional matchups in the NFL. The NBC, Fox, and Prime Video all have windows to announce a handful of games today. Tomorrow on Good Morning America, ESPN will be able to announce at least some of its games. And then on Wednesday morning, CBS and Netflix will be able to announce some of its games. Then on Wednesday, over the course of the day, I'm sure we'll have the vast majority of schedule leaks. And then by the end of day on Wednesday, we will have the full NFL schedule with the international games being announced on Tuesday. So 2 regular season games in London at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Those will feature the Jets and the Browns, and we'll find out their opponents. That's going to come out on Tuesday. The 49ers do play the Browns, so that technically is a possibility for the 49ers, even if it might be unlikely. There's also going to be a game in Berlin announced on Tuesday. That is hosted by the Colts, and the 49ers also do play the Colts this year. So even if that's unlikely, the 49ers are a possibility there. There'll be a game in Madrid hosted by the Miami Dolphins. The 49ers do not play the Dolphins this year, so they are not going to Spain, but we'll find out who plays the Dolphins on Tuesday. There also will be the first ever regular season game in Dublin. That's going to be with the Steelers. The 49ers do not play Pittsburgh this year, so they will not be in that game either. And then the Chargers go to Brazil, and that's Sao Paulo. They're going to be hosting maybe the Chiefs. Who knows? We'll see who they host in Brazil. But that also will not feature the 49ers. Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers headed to South America. And there's one more London game. This one is more standard because the Jags have a multi-year commitment to play in London or play in the UK. And that's happening at Wembley. That's going to be Jacksonville hosting somebody not named the 49ers because the 49ers do not play the Jaguars this year. So those international games come out on Tuesday. Full schedule comes out on Wednesday. The NFL has called it breadcrumbs. They're going to breadcrumb us up until the full release on Wednesday. Whenever I find information out a little bit earlier, I'm happy to get it to you. So one year I got the whole schedule early. Maybe I'll get the whole schedule early. And if I do this year, then make sure that you subscribe and hit that like button and hit the alarm bell, because if the schedule does come out early, you might find out about it through this channel. So all that happening this week, OTAs next week. Gabe Davis will be in the 49ers building today. We'll talk to you all very soon.